A woman is running for governor in Wisconsin. She breastfed her baby in the commercial. She's a hero to some moms, and she might be one of the most schizophrenic people that I've ever seen in politics. Ever. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. My wife and I started off the day watching a political campaign ad done by Kelda Roys, one of 17 Democrat candidates running for governor in the state of Wisconsin. This is one of the best political campaign ads I've ever seen. I'm going to let you watch it and then talk to you from my heart.
When I was in the state assembly, I learned about BPA, which was a toxic chemical that was totally unregulated, and it was everywhere. It was in can liners and in baby bottles and sippy cups, and it gets into whatever the baby is drinking. And this was horrifying to me. How could our government let this dangerous chemical be in all these products? So I said, well, Wisconsin is going to be the first state to ban BPA in baby bottles and sippy cups. I was putting together my legislative update, and I went door to door to hand it out. Approached this one door, and even before it opened, it was a summer day, and I could hear the sound of kids. Woman opens the door, and I kind of hand her my legislative update and grabs it and slams the door and runs back to deal with whatever her kids are yelling about. I'm off to the next house, already up the driveway. Oh, honey, it's okay. Yeah. And I hear her calling after me. And she said, I just read that you are working on the BPA Free Kids Act. Yeah, and I start to tell her, bisphenol A is a neurotoxin. She said, I know. Our daughter's had some problems, and the doctor said that it's because she was exposed to BPA. It really means so much to me that you're taking this issue to heart. That's what's wrong with politics today. Are we taking our orders from people, or are we taking them from chemical corporations that don't care at all about what people need? We still were able to, by working across the aisle, pass a bill to ban BPA, and Wisconsin was indeed one of the very first states to do that. That was an incredible moment because you realize how totally important the work that we do is. Government should be about helping every person achieve his or her potential, and Wisconsin used to do it so well. Democracy only works when we all get involved.
I mean, you can see why it's creating a buzz. And she really was a heroine fighting against BPA because of its impact on human health. So I tip my hat for her efforts to fight against chemicals that can adversely affect children. The problem is that she supports chemicals that will kill children. Kelda, I hope you're watching this. The inconsistency, the treachery, the duplicity in your life and in your arguments and in your politics is mind-boggling. You see, folks, she believes in killing babies by abortion. Now, using her logic to support killing babies, why should the people who make BPA be prohibited? I mean, she believes that she can make a choice to kill another human being, right? To adversely affect the development and growth of another human being, ripping them out limb from limb and throwing them in a garbage can. So who is she to impose her morals on the manufacturers of BPA? You understand, of course, that her argument is you should not be able to affect this decision. This decision is between me and my doctor, my God, whoever. But she has the right to terminate the life of another human being. Well, if makers of BPA want to manufacturing that impacts negatively the lives of other human beings, who is she to impose her morals on them? Who is she to tell them what to do? This is the warning. Here comes the warning. This is for Kelda and for those who are enemies of the right to life. These are the babies who have died by chemicals. These are the babies, images of the children who have died because of her position and the position of thousands of others like her, that it should be the right of a woman to take the life of another woman or another boy or of a little boy by abortion. And friend, this goes to one other thing that I want to tell you. I'm going to go a little bit long here. People who are evildoers can be pretty, they can be handsome, they can be articulate, they can be loving in a certain area. I mean, clearly, if you watch her interacting with her baby, she's a loving mom. There are many evil people in the world who are loving fathers, loving mothers. That was one of the things that came out of the concentration camps. As they began to analyze the people who worked there, some of them had very stable, loving family lives. They could separate. I can be a loving father, and I can kill other fathers. I can go home, have dinner with my wife and children, and I can, during my day job, I can kill Jews. If you've ever seen the movie The Red and the Black, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen it, it's with Christopher Plummer and Gregory Peck. It is one of the best movies that you could see. It's a great movie, and it goes exactly to this point. Christopher Plummer plays the Nazi who was in charge of Rome during the Nazi occupation. A loving husband, a loving father, a murderer. Okay? Watch the movie so that you can see the duplicity in that human being and then apply it to people who are running for office, who on one hand fight against BPA and on the other hand fight for the right to murder an innocent human being. People of Wisconsin, do everything in your power to keep Kelda Roys in the private sector and to keep her out of the governor's mansion, because your state and the unborn babies of your state will be the better for it. Kelda, God forgive you, God help you repent. Today, many so-called Christian intellectuals believe that the God of evolution used billions of years of death and destruction to evolve the bodies of the first human beings. Then, they simply declare the theory of evolution as fact to justify their unproven scientific fallacies. By the grace of God, more and more Catholics are rejecting this modern-day mythology in favor of the traditional doctrine of creation, as recorded by the Bible, and believed and taught by all the fathers and doctors of the Church. To find out how sound theology and natural science confirm the sacred history of Genesis, visit the Colby Center for the Study of Creation, and be sure to check out our bookstore, which has titles like I Have Spoken to You from Heaven, A Catholic Defense of Creation in 6 Days, and A Catholic Assessment of Evolutionary Theory. That's the Colby Center for the Study of Creation. Welcome back to the program, friend. I read an article a little while ago, most of it, it was so long, but it was very disturbing. The name of the lady who wrote it was Jen Gann. And it's her testimony of having a child, a little boy, who has cystic fibrosis. Now, cystic fibrosis is a disease that it is possible to diagnose the chance of the child having the disease during pregnancy or even before pregnancy with genetic testing. They cannot determine 100%, and there's a chance that a mom and a dad will have a healthy baby, and there's a chance that they will have a child with cystic fibrosis. She did have testing, and through some flukes, it never came out that it was even possible that her baby boy could be a carrier or have it, and he in fact was born with cystic fibrosis, and now there's all kinds of medicines that they're going through. But this is a woman who wrote this long article for a magazine called The Cut. And my heart went out to her because she is so filled with bitterness and hatred. But nevertheless, she was brazen. I would not have had my son. I would have aborted him. He should not be here. She's in the middle of a wrongful life lawsuit and says straight up, I would have aborted him. I would have never had him. And her use of the word hate was actually kind of crazy. She said, I'm horrified by the sanctimony that often accompanies this acceptance. She said, parents like me often feel betrayed by their child's cystic fibrosis diagnosis. Maybe there was medical malpractice. Maybe an inherited mutation so rare it wasn't detected prenatally. Other parents have chosen to avoid any kind of testing, believing it's their destiny to embrace whatever God or fate or genetics deals them. I'm horrified by the sanctimony that often accompanies this acceptance, especially when it's admired, especially when it's offered up by mothers who don't, quote, believe, close quote, in prenatal testing, or who have more than one child with cystic fibrosis. The women who willingly made choices that were never presented to me and chose a child's suffering. Sometimes I hate them. I also hate the women who were supposed to care for me. I hate the faceless people at the lab. I hate them ferociously, the way you hate a family member or the closest of friends. I hate them the way you hate a spouse for all the bad they caused and how closely tied that bad is with good. I hate them for what feels like the slyest of deals. While my family's life is now shaped around a disease I would never willingly bring into the world, we are a family because of them, unwittingly. They gave me my most precious gift. I hate them for making me a mother whose biggest mistake was becoming one. Now, we have to pity her. She's a disturbed woman. Part of this is almost cathartic for her, being able to speak about this. Now, I guarantee you, she was a feminist pro-abort long before she had her son. Okay? And her couching her argument that she would not want her to bring a child into the world who suffers. All of us suffer. All of us suffer. I have a son who's a cancer survivor, thank God. We were at St. Jude where there were parents who did not have a child who survived. We have been around people our whole adult lives who have lost children, adults who have suffered, people who have had accidents happen to them, crimes committed against them, diseases that were inoperable or that left them with a permanent disability. Suffering is a part of this life. None of us are immune to it. It is the result of the fall. But her hatred of women who bring more than one child into the world who have cystic fibrosis, that's chilling. That's chilling. Her name, Jen Cran. Pray for her that she will find redemption. Pray for her that she will find forgiveness. Pray for her that she will have a conversion. I feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for her son. I feel sorry for her hatred. And I read, bringing me to tears, I read the testimony of a young man who died when he was 23. He and two of his siblings had cystic fibrosis, about the suffering that they endured, but how thankful he was that his mother did not abort him. A brilliant essay. Richard Andrew Young, I believe is his name. Yep, Richard Andrew Young. If you can look up his name and look at his testimony, it was one of the most profound things I've read in years. And it serves as a healthy, right rebuke to the pro-abortion people who want to literally kill people who are sick or diseased. That's what they're talking about, friends. Killing someone because they're diseased and they don't want their family to have to deal with the burden of a suffering child. And when you read the essay of Richard Andrew Young, it's going to blow your mind how profound it was. None of us escape this life without suffering. All of us will die until that final generation when the Lord Jesus returns. So the issue is, how do we deal with our suffering? Is our suffering redemptive, or does it make us bitter? That depends in part upon how we react to the suffering and how we react to God in the face of that suffering. I'll be right back. Have Muslim terrorists hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam? Or is there more to the story? The answer lies in the life of one man, Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Muslim terrorists see themselves inside a 1,400-year-old story, a narrative that focuses on specific events in the life of Muhammad. We are going to look at Muhammad's life using their most sacred literature. We will look at Muhammad at the Battle of Badr. We'll see him deal with those who mock him. We'll see the times when he used deception. We'll witness Muhammad's anti-Semitism. And yes, we will discuss Muhammad and his teachings concerning sex, slavery, and jihad. Friend, if you want to understand Islamic terrorism, get this series today. In my prior two segments, I talked about two women, Kelger Roys and Jen Gann. Kelger, who fought for BPA and is nursing her baby in her ad, and Jen Gann, who wrote that lengthy piece in The Cut about how she hates people who did not help her to recognize that her child had cystic fibrosis or might have had it, and she hates women who have more than one child with cystic fibrosis or their faith. And I was talking to one of the team here during the break who pointed out that their suffering is real, and therefore we can have pity and compassion on them because of their pain. I mean, this second woman that we referred to her article, she's in real pain, real anguish. And for that, we can have compassion on her. The problem is when somebody wants their bitterness or their pain to become the foundation of public policy, law. So because I have this pain, because I have this child with cystic fibrosis, and I would have killed this baby by abortion, I want to ensure that all babies with a disease of this nature can be killed in the womb. That's the problem. And that's why I have an intensity for them and against them. When people face suffering, they only have two options. One is to become bitter, the other is to become better. Suffering is going to happen to all of us, friends. It just is. And I remember when my dad died, how angry I was at God. I was furious at God. I railed against him. God forgive me. God has forgiven me. The pain was real. My loss was real. My anger at God was real. And I voiced it and I worked through it. And then the Lord became a source of healing. All of us are going to have pain and suffering. We just are. The question is, do we become as individuals bitter, or do we become better? And our reaction to the suffering, and more importantly, our reaction to the Lord, is what determines that. So we can have heartache and genuine compassion for people like Jen Gann. She needs God. She needs God. And she has the light because she refers to God, and her contempt for sanctimonious people who embrace God and embrace their suffering. She knows that it's out there, and she is self-consciously rejecting that light. And so for that, we can have compassion and pity on her and hope that she gets it right with her Maker. But we must unflinchingly resist her propositions regarding public policy. That's the issue here, friends. And that's the problem. There are many people in this world today, Christian people, who know that child killing is a grave sin, that it should be against the law. Abortion should be against the law. But they're so muddled in their thinking because of misplaced compassion towards those who are suffering. There's an old expression, hard cases make bad law. And that's what this is about. If someone is raped, it's horrifying. If they're pregnant, you don't kill the baby because of the crime of the father. Let's talk about executing the rapist. Let's not talk about killing the baby for the crime of the father. So, when you hear about rape, incest, the life of the mother, that's a different issue. That's mixing and matching. Or the health of the child. Now we're looking at hard cases and muddying the conscience of those who should be clear thinking regarding public policy. Hard cases make bad law. Remember that. And then don't flinch when discussing the right to life. I'll be right back. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, "I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life." Best-selling author Dr. Bill Warner said, "What Would Mohammed Do is the best movie series, TV production on the life of Muhammad and Islamic terrorism that has ever been produced." Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700, or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Friend, we have a series that will help you and those you love to have an impact on this country. It's called Insurrecta Nex. That's Latin for revolution against the killing of innocent people. This is the history, the philosophy, and the theology of social revolution in America. We look at the Stamp Act, the Boston Tea Party, the abolition of slavery, the abolition of child labor, women's voting rights, the civil rights movement. All of them have this in common: courage, sacrifice, dedication, and in-your-face tactics and rhetoric. That's one of the reasons that we've been losing the culture wars the last 40 years, is because the bad guys are using these tactics and we aren't. We will send you this 14-part TV series along with these manuals for students, a teacher's facilitator guide for only $40. Go to 304-289-3700, 304-289-3700. I only have a couple of seconds to be with you, friend, but I want you to ponder something between now and our next time together. The attackers of Donald Trump, our president, except for the Republicans who are out in the cold because they didn't support him and they just hate him because he's Donald Trump, I want you to understand the spiritual dynamic, or at least ponder this theory. If you look in the scriptures at the people that God used to deliver the nation of Israel, you will find some pretty earthy characters, some pretty compromised characters. Look at Samson. Samson had a problem with professional women, okay? And yet God used him. And even after he gave up the secret of his strength and he was captured, his hair cut off, and he was blinded and put in prison, and his hair grew back, God still used him to bring down that building and to kill some 3,000 Philistine leaders. So we need to step back and say, now, if there had been some really pious, holy people in the nation of Israel at that time who said, Samson is a whoremonger, Samson goes to prostitutes, he's got a problem with women, they would have been right. They would have been spot on right. But God didn't raise Samson up to be their priest. He didn't raise him up to be their pastor. He raised them up to be their deliverer and to fight those who were oppressing the people of Israel. Do you understand? God chose Samson knowing all of that about him. Now, we chose Donald Trump, and God probably had something to do with it as well. And friends, the attacks on Trump are coming from people who hate God and the right to life and the right to self-defense, and they hate marriage between a man and woman. Do you see what's going on? I can't believe I'm out of time. Come back the next show. Please come back.